This week on Outdoor Bound TV, we're off to the small island in the Atlantic Ocean made famous by the 90s sitcom Wings. That's right, we're headed to Nantucket Island, off the coast of Massachusetts. On this trip, we'll be fishing with our friend Corey Gammill of Bill Fisher Outfitters. Corey will give us the ins and outs of fishing for and catching striped bass. We'll also take a break to learn about the vital role this small island played in the whaling industry.
Take a look at this muskie. Here we go. Got him. We have found the bluefish.
I have 2 bass on.
Such a thick fish. That was awesome. I love it.
Outdoor Bound TV is brought to you by Mission by Matthews and Vortex Optics.
Hi everyone, welcome to Outdoor Bound TV. I'm Kurt Walbeck. There's a small island about 30 miles off the east coast of the United States that is probably more synonymous with the whaling industry than any other port in North America. Today, Nantucket Island is a tourism mecca, literally hosting thousands of visitors each summer. But Nantucket Island is also famous for something else: incredible striped bass fishing. Let's meet up with our buddy Dexter Payne, his daughter Mercy, and Captain Corey Gammill to learn more about this great fish.
I've been a fishing guide out here on Nantucket for 20 years now. I grew up coming to this island as a typical person who comes on vacation. I'd spend a week here, and at 18 I didn't want to live in Connecticut anymore, which is where I grew up, and I wanted to follow in my brother's footsteps. And I got a job working on a fishing boat, and was lucky enough that a great guy took me on as a mate, and I did the typical routine of mate for 4 or 5 years for somebody. Then I got a great opportunity to work as a captain for a great mentor, and worked for him for 7 years, and was able to go off on my own and partnered with a couple of guys who were very like-minded, and we've created a pretty cool guiding business. And then along the way, also with a group of guys, we created and bought a tackle shop, which has become the leading tackle shop on island. So Nantucket's become my home, and it didn't happen quickly, it happened slowly, and it happened just sort of through love of fishing and outdoors and this island. It gets in your soul pretty quick, and so it's fun for me to now share it with others.
What were you saying about quality, not quantity, Corey?
Oh, that actually is.
Nice fish. Should we let your dad hold this so he feels what it feels like?
Yeah.
I am not holding someone else's dick. What do you think that is, Corey?
So it's probably about 33, 32. So Nantucket sits 30 miles off the coast of Cape Cod, and that's an important thing to remember. We are in the ocean. We are not a part of Cape Cod. We are south of it by 30 miles. We are an open stretch in the ocean. And if you think about Nantucket as a series of sandbars, fish love structure. And if you look along most coastlines have structure on the coastline. We have structure not just on our coastline, but as you go out east of the island, there's rips, which are big sandbars that come up. They run for 10 to 15 miles. Then as you go west of Nantucket towards Martha's Vineyard, there's more sandbars. So Nantucket's filled with structure. And so it's a great hiding spot, great home, great feeding spot for fish. And Nantucket's loaded with different spots for these fish to hide.
Okay. Fish on.
Yep. Let it do it good.
So Mercy hooks up, and again, these fish, they've got these big square tails, and their meat, it's a white meat, and that meat is built for power. And that's immediately, these fish know that something's wrong, and they go the opposite way. And it is fun, and they take 3-4 whacks of that big tail, and that rod goes from straight up to 90 degrees real quick. I love Mercy, and she is truly one of the best fishermen I fish with. She gets so excited when she was doing it. She was going as fast as she can. And I just reminded her real quick, slow it down. You know, you don't always need to move the lure as quick as you can. As soon as she slowed it down so it was swinging right, fish came up and whacked it. The striped bass are known for the power of the hit, and you know pretty quick what size fish you got. Striped bass are a white meat, which means that they save their energy for moments. You know, they come up and attack the squid once. They're not constantly swimming. It's the same thing when they hit it, they go, and usually they don't have a big energy for the fight. It doesn't mean they give up, but they use the leverage of their big mouth, a bucket mouth, and then they turn their bodies. So after a big hit, they tend to just hold you. So usually the rod stays bent over, but the fish isn't going left, right, up, down like some other fish that we catch are. And this fish is drifting back with us. So Mercy's got to dig her knees in so she doesn't fall herself over, okay? Rod's bent right over. And this is where the fish are. They're hanging right up on that sandbar. And then the tide's moving at about 6 knots, 5 to 6 knots through here. So you can see how quick we just got spun through. And once we turn the motors off, because we hooked up, and we do that to allow Mercy to actually fight the fish.
Thank you, Corey.
Oh, nice fish, Mark.
Yeah.
So a couple things about this fish. First off, no teeth here. It's all sandpaper, so I can put just like a largemouth bass, and you can see their mouth, they swallow things, they gulp them in. These fish, they use their tail and their bodies to whack the bait fish. So they try and stun the fish, and they can turn and whack them with their mouth. So striped bass are a migratory fish, meaning they spend their winter south and then they come up north. And that voyage they want to make quick because they want to find food and they want to find warmth. And along the voyage, these little sea lice will jump on for the ride. And when the bass get into our local waters and settle themselves in to start feeding and warming their bodies up and filling their bodies up with food, they want to get these sea lice off of them. And the way they get these sea lice off of them is they go down into the sand and they rub their bellies and they turn on their side. So you can see the lice right here and there and there, bunched by his tail. So you know you've got a fresh fish, a fish that just arrived, if it's got loaded with sea lice. And then you know if it's just got a few little sea lice, it's probably been here for a few days. And if it's got no sea lice, it's been here for probably 4, 5, 6 days or a week. So you can always tell whether it's a fresh fish from its migration pattern based on how much sea lice is on the side of the fish. Sweet.
5.
Let's go. Another fish. Dexter Payne. Mercy.
Mercy, I think this is much bigger than your fish.
Hey, Mercy, keep fishing and we're going to reel a little bit faster right now.
These fish, when they take it, go down, straight down.
Fish on, double.
Oh, Merce.
So
Small fish.
You can't lose it now. Now that the leader is
Okay, wait, Corey. So much for the big fish. This is definitely not. Yeah, there's no question.
I love Dexter, but this fish is not going to get the love that I'm just going to release him by the side of the boat.
See what a nice fish this is?
So one of the things you can see, if you see some of these scales are bent back, what's going on, the reason those are bent back is they're rubbing so hard into the sand that they're to try and get these parasites off that they'll bend back some of their scales. So it looks at the discoloration of some of those scales. Just along my thumb line there is what's called the lateral line, which is like a broken line. It looks like a perforated line, and that's their sonar system. Fish can't see. If you look at the location of their eyes, they are built to see everything in the periphery, and they only focus on things that are about 12 inches away. They can only see things that close. So what happens is the way they feed is they feel that something's around them, or they'll pick it up in their periphery vision. So striped bass have a lateral line, and they feel when there's a pulse in the water. And so what they do when they feel that pulse that is coming into their lateral line is they'll turn to go see what that is. So they'll get up, and if it's clear water, they might look with their eyes and say, this doesn't look real, and pull off, but we're fishing this rough water. And so their eyes aren't working well in that situation. So the one thing left to use is their mouth. Is this something I should consume or not? Well, by the time they've already put their mouth around it, it's too late. Out here, he can't see me. Here he can. So it's a pretty cool setup of a fish. All right, Merce?
Outdoor Bound TV is brought to you by Mission Crossbows and HHA Sports.
Nathaniel Philbrick, author of In the Heart of the Sea, illustrated the essence of Nantucket best when he wrote in the Smithsonian Magazine. Nantucket Island is a fashionable summer resort, a place of t-shirt shops and trendy boutiques. It's also a place of picture-perfect beaches where even at the height of summer you can stake out a wide swath of sand to call your own. But what makes Nantucket truly different is its past. For a relatively brief period during the late 18th and early 19th centuries, this lonely crescent of sand at the edge of the Atlantic was the whaling capital of the world and one of the wealthiest communities in America. The evidence of this bygone glory can still be seen along the upper reaches of the town's Main Street, where the cobbles seem to dip and rise like the undulant sea, and where the houses still evoke the humble spirituality of the island's Quaker past. And yet lurking beneath the surface is the story of a community that sustained one of the bloodiest businesses the world has ever known. The oil derived from the sperm whale's blubber was far superior to that of other whales, providing a brighter and cleaner burning light. With no other source of livelihood, Nantucketers dedicated themselves to the single-minded pursuit of the sperm whale, and they soon surpassed their whaling rivals on the mainland and Long Island.
As soon as you get out there, the first thing you're looking for are there birds. Because if there's birds, there's bait, and if there's bait, there's usually fish. So we're coming on, as we get about a quarter mile, I see the birds up there, and I just start thinking it's going to be a good day. And I'll tell you, Mercy, first cast from the bow, she was casting a pink swimmer, which she gets excited about. And first cast, she put it right in the flat water, drifted right back the first wave, and 3, 4, 5 seconds later, fish on, Merce!
This is just funny. It's a lot of the bass go straight down, and this one feels like he's gone.
Perfect.
Just dive down.
And he's not moving a lot, where a lot of fish will come up and jump. Stripers are known just for holding. You know, they get akin to bringing in a big bucket, because they'll just sit down there and they'll hold on you. Just gonna swing them on in, Merce. Yeah. Go.
Merce, is that bigger?
Maybe a little bit, not a ton. It's a good looking fish though.
So again, you can see the lateral line right there. And again, this is their power right here. This is their power source. And what we're saying is if you look inside it, it's a white fish. And white fish are not built for continuous fights. Continuous fights are dark fish, your tunas, your bluefish, anything with darker meat. The meat's designed to continually use the energy. And so they're constantly feeding, constantly using energy. These guys feed and save their energy. They're what's called lungers for moments. You know, they're not always using their energy. They try and sit behind these sandbars a lot like a trout sit behind a rock, and they wait and they become incredibly opportunistic.
It's awesome. They're my favorite fish to catch all summer. I love the bass.
Nantucket has a ton of structure around it, so we have options. You know, we don't go to 1, 2, or 3 spots. I could go to 20, 25 different spots. Frankly, I could go to 100. And we tend to fish a lot of what we call rips or shoals. And what rips or shoals are sandbars that come up. And so on one side of it, it'll be 25 feet, it'll come up to 5 feet, and the back side will drop down to 50. And that's a natural structure for fish to hide behind.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah, come on! Yep, fish on.
And as they sit and can hide behind that structure, water flow, the tide, which is moving 5 hours, then it'll slack out for an hour, and then start running again. So the fish can hide behind that structure, and the bait gets sucked across these sandbars.
Amazing, they're feeding right on the top of the surface there.
And so the Fish are smart. They don't want to work. They want as much food as they can get for as little energy outputted. So that what they do is they go find these structures and find where the mass flow of bait is, and they sit behind it so they work very little, come up, grab the bait, and go down. So the trick as fishermen is figure out where the bait is, because wherever the bait is, the fish are going to be. The fish are smart. They know where to go. And so that's what we're constantly tracking, is where is the bait flowing, and then we want to find the structure that the bait loses control, and the fish can then come up and grab the bait when it's out of control.
So that's a bit smaller than the other ones we were catching. And that guy is, he's not quite a keeper, it's probably about 25 inches, 26 inches. And so it's probably part of like the, probably the 14-year class, probably about a 3 to 4 year old fish. You know, which out here we're mostly catching probably 5 to 6 year old fish. So it's nice to see some different sizes mixed in, but we're not seeing the bigger sizes yet.
Now we'll get them.
But we will get them.
Early in the tide.
Sweet. Rock and roll.
I love variety. I love mixing things up. So made the decision to run inshore. Ironic how we go from fishing 7, 8, 9 miles offshore to literally within 100 yards of the beach. And as soon as we get there, fish are rolling again.
Oh, he has 2 bass.
I have 2 bass on. Do you see?
Welcome to Nantucket. Some charter outfits catch one fish. Here, on Bill Fisher Outfitters, we don't believe in catching one fish. We believe in catching 2 fish at a time. You know? Everybody else does it the normal way. We tend to do it.
I think I just won.
Yeah.
Biggest fish of the day.
Yeah.
I think so.
Why would you catch 1 fish when you can catch 2 fish? You know? Why would you catch a redfish when you can catch a bluefish? We can release both those fish. Congratulations, Dexter, on catching 2. Percy, did you take yours off?
You know, that was particularly skillful, given that,
Yeah. That's awesome.
Thank you, Captain Corey.
You know, a little bit smaller fish than we were catching offshore, but a lot more active. Cool to see the seals right there, homes, people walking on the beach. You know, people get a little jealous as a boat's drifting 100 yards off the beach and rods are bent just about every cast. You know, it's obviously a bit of luck, but we're lucky to have an amazing fishery that can produce those results if you know where you're going. Pencil poppers are more imitating a squid or something that's rolling on the surface. The easy way to fish it is just tip up and reel as quickly as you can. It will splash along the surface and make enough noise to interest the fish. The way I prefer to do it is to do what's called hammer in the nail.
What you do when you're hammering the nail is that tip is completely vertical, and you can just see how much it's bouncing. And it creates a lot of action on the water.
And that allows you to move the reel handle at a slower speed so you get more action on the lure. So the retrieve does make a difference. If you can get some more action to it and bouncing and frothing of the surface, again, these fish underneath, they're sensing it with their lateral line, that there's commotion. And so the more water you can push through the action of your rod tip, the more excited a fish is going to come and want to check that on out.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
That was fun to watch. It followed it for really. Oh, Murray, you should cast out there now. Do you see him coming up?
I think I have a bass right now, but it's been at the surface, so this could be the first bluefish of the day.
We have found the bluefish. Question is whether we can successfully land it. The thing about these guys is they've got wicked teeth. You could see those, and they might not look terrible. It's one basically razor blade. You put your finger in there, it's going right down to the bone. So they're ferocious. You know, earlier in the day I was talking about how striped bass are a light meat, you know, white meat fish. These are dark meat. And so these guys are built to constantly devour food. And in constantly devouring food, they're constantly expending energy. Striped bass save energy, store it up. These guys don't. They use it, and then they go gather more. So these guys eat and eat and eat and eat. When they're full and they see more food, they'll throw up everything they've already had so they can go eat more. Just pretty cool. So one way we know where bluefish are is we'll smell them. So striped bass have they're highly sought after for not just as a game fish, but as a table fish. It's a white fish. It's very flaky. It's a very, very subtle flavor, and if eaten fresh, it melts in your mouth.
Outdoor Bound TV is brought to you by Acme Tackle and Mountain Dew.
Well, that sure didn't take long. First cast here on top water, and he smacked it. Beautiful here in Nantucket, and I'm telling you, awesome fishing. You know, Captain Corey's kind of got us dialed in on where these fish are, and you can see them surface, and he'll bring the boat around. He said, okay, go ahead and throw in, and literally first cast right into the fish, and there they were. This is a striper. Now that fish had missed the top water, and I caught him right on top of the head, but look at what a beautiful fish. These striped bass are absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful lines in them, and incredibly fun to catch. Man, what an experience here on Nantucket Island. I've got to thank Captain Corey. It's been a world of fun out here on the water today. If you get a chance to come to Nantucket, make sure you look these guys up. All their information is right here on the screen. And we hope that you'll join us again here next week when we'll bring you more great hunting and fishing action from around the US, around Canada, and around the world, right here on Outdoor Bound TV. What a fish.
Outdoor Bound TV is brought to you by Markham Technologies and Rapala.
I'm Corey Gammill from Bill Fisher Outfitters. Don't go away, because Outdoor Bound TV will be. See, now I have to say something scripted. Outdoor Bound TV, right? I can do it again. And don't go away, because there's more to come from What does it say? Outdoor Bound TV, right?